I need to say this up front. It was just something I said in the heat of the moment. I didn't mean it. Not really. I never planned to destroy my own marriage with one stupid sentence. And I definitely never expected my husband to press play in front of the one person I should have never, ever mentioned, his father. I thought he'd be hurt, maybe cry, maybe yell, maybe even slam a door and disappear for a few hours before coming back ready to talk. I didn't expect him to go nuclear. I didn't expect him to record me without my knowledge, send that recording to his father, and then make me listen to my own voice in front of the man who raised him. I didn't expect to be humiliated so thoroughly that I'd lose everything in one evening. But that's exactly what happened. And now I'm here, sitting in a motel room that smells like old carpet and regret, trying to piece together how one argument spiraled so far out of control that I ended up with a suitcase, a broken marriage, and nowhere to go. Before we get into this whole mess, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. Now let's dive in. Let me set the scene for you. We were in the middle of one of those arguments. You know the kind I'm talking about. Stupid, petty, circular. The kind that starts about something completely mundane like dirty dishes, or whose turn it is to take out the trash, and somehow spirals into existential questions about intimacy, connection, effort, and whether we even still like each other. This particular fight was about our bedroom life, or the lack thereof. We hadn't been intimate in weeks, maybe longer. I'd stopped counting because counting only made me feel worse. Every time I tried to initiate something, he had an excuse. Work was stressful, he was tired, he had an early morning, he just wanted to watch one more episode and then go to sleep. And I get it, life is exhausting. We're both working full-time, we're both stressed, but I was starting to feel invisible. Like I was just a roommate he occasionally exchanged pleasantries with, like I was furniture in our home, something he'd walk past without really seeing. I started noticing all the small ways he'd stopped engaging with me. He used to ask about my day, and actually listen to the answer. Now he'd mumble, "That's nice," without looking up from his phone. He used to kiss me goodbye in the morning. Now he'd just grab his keys and leave while I was still in the shower. He used to reach for my hand when we watched television together. Now he sat on the opposite end of the couch, scrolling through his phone, existing in a completely separate world. I felt like I was disappearing, like I was fading into the background of my own life. And the worst part was that he didn't even seem to notice. Or if he noticed, he didn't care enough to do anything about it. So that night, after another evening of him barely acknowledging my existence, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to talk to him. I needed him to see what was happening to us. I found him in the living room, sitting on the couch with his laptop balanced on his knees, probably reading work emails or watching random videos. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "We need to talk," I said, standing in front of the television to force him to acknowledge me. He sighed. Actually sighed, like I was an inconvenience, like my need for connection was an annoying interruption to whatever he was doing. "Can it wait?" he asked, still not making eye contact. "I'm in the middle of something." "No," I said firmly. "It can't wait. We need to talk about us. About our marriage, about the fact that we're living like strangers." He closed the laptop with obvious reluctance and finally looked at me. His expression was neutral, almost bored, like he already knew what I was going to say and had already decided it wasn't worth his full attention. I tried to be gentle. I really did. I'd spent hours reading articles online about effective communication in relationships. I knew I was supposed to use "I feel" statements instead of accusations. I was supposed to be vulnerable instead of confrontational. I was supposed to create a safe space for dialogue. So I took a deep breath and started carefully. "I feel disconnected from you," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I feel like we're drifting apart, and I don't know how to stop it. I miss feeling close to you. I miss feeling desired. I miss feeling like we're actually partners instead of just people who share a house. I paused, waiting for him to respond, waiting for him to show some emotion, some concern, some indication that what I was saying mattered to him. He just stared at me blankly. "Okay," he said finally. "What do you want me to do about it?" What did I want him to do about it? I wanted him to care. I wanted him to reach for me. I wanted him to show some initiative instead of making me beg for basic affection. "I want you to try," I said, feeling my carefully maintained calm starting to crack. "I want you to make an effort. I want you to show me that this marriage still matters to you." "I'm tired," he said simply. Like that explained everything. Like those two words were sufficient justification for months of neglect. And that's when something inside me snapped. "You're always tired," I said, my voice rising. "You're tired when I try to talk to you. You're tired when I try to be intimate with you. You're tired when I ask for literally anything. But you're never too tired to scroll through your phone for hours, or to stay up late watching videos, or to go out with your friends on weekends." "That's not fair," he said, but his tone was still maddeningly calm, still detached, still emotionally unavailable in that way that made me want to scream. "What's not fair is being married to someone who acts like I don't exist," I shouted. "What's not fair is trying to save a marriage while my husband can't even be bothered to look at me." "You're being dramatic," he said, and those three words were like gasoline on a fire. Dramatic. He thought I was being dramatic for wanting to feel loved, for wanting to feel valued, for wanting to feel like more than just an obligation he'd forgotten to fulfill. The argument escalated from there. I started listing all the ways he'd been neglecting me. Every rejection, every dismissal, every time he'd chosen his phone over conversation with me, every time he'd fallen asleep on the couch instead of coming to bed with me, every excuse he'd made to avoid intimacy. He got defensive and started listing all the ways I was being unfair and demanding. He said I didn't understand the pressure he was under at work. He said I expected too much. He said I was making everything about me when he was struggling too. We went in circles for what felt like hours, saying the same things we'd said a dozen times before. The same accusations, the same defenses, the same fundamental disconnect between what I needed and what he was willing or able to give. Nothing was changing. Nothing was going to change. I could feel it in my bones. We were stuck in this pattern, and neither of us knew how to break free from it. And I could feel my frustration building into something darker, something uglier, something that wanted to hurt him the way he'd been hurting me. I wanted to win the argument. I wanted to shake him out of his infuriating calm. I wanted him to feel something, anything, other than that detached politeness he always retreated into during conflict. I wanted to see pain on his face. I wanted to see him lose control. I wanted to matter enough to him that he'd actually fight for us instead of just sitting there like a statue, weathering my anger with that blank expression. So I reached for the cruelest weapon I could find. I thought about what would hurt him most, what would cut deepest, what would finally get a reaction out of him. And then I found it. His father who he admired more than anyone in the world. His father who he constantly tried to live up to. His father who represented everything he aspired to be. Successful, confident, charismatic, strong. I knew exactly what to say to destroy him. I said the most poisonous thing I could think of. "Maybe your dad could satisfy me better than you do." The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion, like a grenade I'd just thrown into the middle of our living room. The second they left my mouth, I knew. I knew I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. I knew I had detonated something that couldn't be diffused. I knew I'd just wounded him in a way that might never heal. But in that moment, part of me didn't care. Part of me was satisfied to finally see his face change, to finally see emotion flicker across his features. Part of me thought, good. Now you know how it feels. But I didn't apologize. I was too proud, too angry, too convinced that he deserved to feel what I was feeling, too committed to the lie that hurting him would somehow make me feel less hurt. His face didn't crumple. It didn't redden with rage. It didn't twist with pain the way I expected. It went completely blank, but not the same blank as before. This was different. This was the blankness that comes before a storm, the calm before devastation, and that's when I should have been afraid. Because his face didn't show anger. It didn't show the kind of explosive emotion I'd been trying to provoke. It showed something far more dangerous. It showed calculation. It showed a decision being made in real time, a line being drawn, a conclusion being reached, and in that moment, watching his expression shift from hurt to something cold and resolved, I realized I hadn't won anything. I'd just lost everything. He didn't yell, he didn't throw anything, he didn't slam doors or punch walls or do any of the dramatic things I'd braced myself for. He just stood up slowly, grabbed his phone from the coffee table, and walked out of the room. I sat there on the couch, my heart pounding, adrenaline still coursing through my veins, replaying what I'd just said. Part of me wanted to chase after him and apologize. Part of me wanted him to come back and beg for forgiveness for making me feel so desperate that I'd say something like that. Part of me was just numb, staring at the wall, wondering what happened to us. We used to be good together. We used to laugh and talk for hours and make each other feel seen. When did that stop? When did we become these bitter strangers living in the same house? But he didn't come back. Not for 1 hour, not for 2, not for 3. The silence that followed was worse than screaming. It was worse than insults. It was worse than anything I'd ever experienced in our 6 years of marriage. That silence was thick and suffocating. It pressed down on me until I couldn't breathe properly. It gave me too much time to think, too much time to replay the fight, too much time to realize that maybe, just maybe, I'd gone too far this time. I checked my phone obsessively. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. I walked past the bedroom door multiple times. It was closed. I pressed my ear against it and heard nothing. No movement, no sound, just eerie, total silence. I thought about knocking. I thought about texting an apology. I thought about just going to bed and pretending tomorrow would be different, that we'd wake up and somehow this would all blow over the way our fights usually did. But something felt different this time. Something felt final. Around midnight, I heard his footsteps. He walked back into the living room, moving with an unsettling calm. His face was composed. His breathing was even. He looked like someone who'd made a decision and was now simply executing a plan. He wasn't empty-handed. He had his phone clutched in his right hand, and I could see his thumb hovering over something on the screen. A voice memo app. A recording. My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. "Did you record me?" I asked, my voice cracking, pitched higher than normal. He didn't answer immediately. He just looked at me with that same blank expression, studying me like I was a stranger he was trying to figure out. "Did you record our argument?" I repeated, louder now, standing up from the couch. "You can't do that, that's—" "You said it 3 times, he interrupted, his voice eerily calm. I wanted to make sure I remembered it correctly. 3 times? I replayed the fight in my head frantically. Had I really said it 3 times? Maybe I did. Maybe I was so caught up in wanting to hurt him, so desperate to get a reaction, that I kept twisting the knife. That I kept reaching for that same cruel comparison because I could see it was the only thing that penetrated his armor. "I didn't mean it," I said quickly, the words tumbling out. "You know I didn't mean it." "Then why did you say it?" His question hung there, simple and devastating. I didn't have an answer. Or I had too many answers, none of them good enough. Because I was angry. Because I wanted him to care. Because I wanted him to fight for me instead of shutting down every single time we argued. Because I wanted to see some emotion on his face instead of that infuriating, detached calm. But none of those reasons sounded good out loud. None of them would justify what I'd said. I was frustrated, I finally managed. I was hurt. You've been ignoring me for months, and I just wanted— You wanted to humiliate me, he said flatly. You wanted to cut as deep as possible. That's not— It is, he interrupted. And you succeeded. He held up his phone, and I saw he'd opened his messages app. I watched with growing horror as he scrolled to a contact. The name at the top of the screen made my blood run cold. Dad. Panic flooded every cell in my body. Don't, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Please don't do this. He didn't even look at me. His thumb moved to the keyboard. I watched him type. My hands were shaking so badly I had to clench them into fists. My throat was completely dry. My heart was hammering against my ribcage so hard I thought it might break through. I lunged forward and tried to grab the phone from his hands. Stop. Please, I'm begging you, don't send that to him. He pulled the phone away effortlessly, holding it above his head, moving it out of my reach like I was a child trying to grab something dangerous. I want him to know, my husband said quietly, still in that terrifyingly calm voice. I want him to know what kind of person I married, what kind of person would say something like that to hurt me. I didn't mean it, I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face, my voice breaking. It was a stupid, horrible thing to say. I was angry. People say terrible things when they're angry. You were honest, he said simply. Maybe for the first time in months, you were completely honest about how you feel. That's not fair, I sobbed. You're twisting this. You're making it sound like you think about my father that way, he asked, tilting his head. Like you've been comparing us. Like you've been fantasizing about— Stop, I screamed. That's not what I meant, and you know it. But he wasn't listening anymore. His attention was back on his phone. I watched him finish typing a message. Something short. Probably something like, Dad, you need to hear this. Or, can you come over right now? It's important. I dropped to my knees. Actually dropped to my knees in front of him, like I was begging for my life. Please, I whispered. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'll go to therapy. I'll never say anything like that again. I'll be better. Just please don't send that to your father. He looked down at me, and for just a second I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Hesitation maybe, or pity, but then it was gone. And with a slow, surgical calm, he pressed send. I watched the message go through. I watched the little checkmark appear next to it, indicating it had been delivered. I felt my entire world collapse in on itself. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. I was still on the floor, my face buried in my hands, trying to figure out if there was any way to salvage this, any explanation I could give, any apology that would make this okay. But I knew there wasn't. I knew that in 20 minutes, I was going to face my father-in-law and listen to him hear the worst thing I'd ever said about his son. He's here, my husband said flatly, moving toward the door. No, I whispered, my voice hoarse from crying. No, 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 please. I stumbled to my feet, thinking maybe I could stop this. Maybe I could convince him to tell his father it was a mistake, a misunderstanding, anything. But my husband was already opening the door. His father walked in, looking confused and concerned. He was still in his work clothes, button-down shirt, slacks, reading glasses hanging from a chain around his neck. He'd clearly come straight from home without even changing. He glanced at me first, taking in my tear-stained face and red eyes, then looked at his son with obvious worry. What's going on? His father asked, his voice gentle but edged with concern. Your message sounded urgent. Is everything all right? Is someone hurt? Before I could invent an excuse, before I could beg him to leave, before I could throw myself between them and the phone, my husband spoke. Dad, I need you to hear something, he said, his voice still eerily calm. Please don't, I whispered, but I might as well have been invisible. My husband walked to the coffee table and set his phone down carefully, deliberately, like he was performing a ritual. His father looked down at it, then back at me, his expression shifting from confusion to suspicion. What is this about? His father asked. My husband didn't answer. He just pressed play. My own voice echoed through the room, sharp and venomous and unmistakably mine. Maybe your dad could satisfy me better than you do. I felt my soul leave my body. Time seemed to stop. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. His father's face went through several rapid transformations. Confusion melted into shock. Shock hardened into disbelief. Disbelief crystallized into something I'd never seen directed at me before. Pure, undiluted disgust. He didn't say a single word for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds. He just stared at me like I was something contaminated, something toxic, something that needed to be removed from his son's life immediately. I opened my mouth, trying to force out an explanation, an apology, anything. I didn't mean, but my husband cut me off before I could finish. She didn't say it once, Dad, he said, his voice still maddeningly calm. She said it 3 times. Let me play the whole thing for you. He tapped the screen again, and the recording continued. And he was right. I had said it 3 times. Each repetition more cutting than the last, each one designed to wound him deeper. My voice on the recording sounded cruel and calculated in a way I didn't remember being in the moment. But there it was, undeniable evidence of exactly how far I'd been willing to go to hurt him. When the recording finally ended, the silence that followed was even worse than before. His father's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles working beneath his skin. His hands had curled into fists at his sides. His eyes had gone hard and cold. Finally he spoke, and his voice was low and controlled in a way that was somehow more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. I didn't raise him for this, he said, each word carefully measured. I didn't raise him to be disrespected like this, to be humiliated, to be compared to me in such a vile way. I tried to speak again. It wasn't, and I didn't expect this from you, he continued, talking over me like I hadn't said anything. I welcomed you into this family. I treated you like a daughter. I trusted you with my son's happiness. And this is what you do with that trust? Tears were pouring down my face now. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was just angry and I said something horrible, but I didn't mean... You meant it enough to say it 3 times, his father said coldly. He turned to my husband. I'm proud of you for showing me this, for not hiding it, for not protecting someone who would treat you this way. Then he looked back at me one final time. I thought you were better than this, he said, and the disappointment in his voice was like a physical blow. I thought you respected him, respected this family, respected yourself. He shook his head slowly, the gesture somehow conveying more judgment than any words could. I was wrong about you. He turned toward the door without another word, didn't wait for a response, didn't give me a chance to defend myself or explain or beg for forgiveness. Wait, I started, taking a step toward him. He held up one hand without turning around, a clear signal to stop, to not follow, to not speak. The door closed behind him with a soft, final click that sounded like a coffin being sealed. The silence that followed his father's departure was deafening, absolute, complete. My husband stood there, still in the same spot, looking at the closed door. His expression hadn't changed. He still looked calm, decided, like he'd already moved on to whatever came next. I was a wreck, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe, snot running down my face, my whole body shaking. I'm sorry, I choked out between sobs. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I know what I said was unforgivable, but please believe me when I say I didn't mean it. I would never actually... He turned to look at me, and the expression on his face stopped me mid-sentence. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even pain anymore. It was finality. I won't be the man you compare to anyone, he said quietly, his voice steady and certain. Especially not him. You're not, I insisted desperately. I wasn't comparing you. I was just trying to hurt you because you were hurting me by ignoring me and... You humiliated me, he interrupted, his voice still eerily calm. You humiliated my father. You humiliated yourself. He walked past me toward the bedroom. I heard him opening the closet, heard the sound of something being pulled out. When he came back, he was carrying my large suitcase, the one we'd used for our honeymoon to Hawaii 6 years ago, the one that was covered in stickers from all the places we'd traveled together back when we were happy. I watched in disbelief as he placed it by the front door, unzipped it, opened it wide. Then he walked back to the bedroom and started pulling clothes from the closet. What are you doing? I whispered, even though I knew exactly what he was doing. I'm helping you pack, he said matter-of-factly, folding one of my shirts with mechanical precision, since you clearly don't want to be here anymore. I do want to be here, I shouted, my voice breaking. This is my home. This is our home. Not anymore, he said simply. He kept packing, methodically, calmly, shirts, jeans, sweaters, shoes, everything I owned, piece by piece, folded neatly and placed into that suitcase. I begged, I pleaded, I promised I'd never say anything like that again. I swore I'd go to therapy, couples counseling, anger management, whatever he wanted. I told him I'd be better, I'd be patient, I'd give him space, I'd do anything if he'd just give me another chance. He didn't respond. He just kept folding, keep packing, like I wasn't even there. I grabbed his arm at one point, trying to make him look at me, trying to make him see how sorry I was. He gently but firmly removed my hand from his arm and continued packing. When the suitcase was completely full, he zipped it up, stood, and looked at me one last time. His eyes were dry. His expression was neutral. He looked like someone who'd already mourned and moved on. Go say you didn't mean it to someone else, he said quietly. Then he opened the front door and waited. I stood there, frozen, not believing this was actually happening. Not believing that one argument, one horrible comment, one moment of anger could destroy 6 years of marriage. I have nowhere to go, I whispered. That's not my problem anymore, he said. And I realized in that moment that he meant it. He was done. Completely done. There was no negotiating, no reasoning, no path back from this. I grabbed my suitcase with shaking hands, walked to the door on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. I paused at the threshold, turning back one more time, hoping to see some hint of hesitation in his face, some crack in his armor that suggested he might still love me underneath all this. But there was nothing, just that same blank expression. I'm sorry, I whispered one last time. He said nothing, just closed the door behind me. I heard the lock click, and then I was alone in the hallway with my suitcase and the ruins of my life. I'm writing this from a motel room 2 weeks later, the kind of place that rents by the week and doesn't ask questions, the kind of place where the carpet has stains you don't want to think about, and the people in the next room are always either fighting or playing music too loud. The kind of place where broken people go when they have nowhere else left. My suitcase is still sitting in the corner, half unpacked, because some part of me keeps thinking this is temporary, that he'll call, that we'll talk, that somehow we'll find our way back to each other. But my phone stays silent. I've texted him 17 times, called him 32 times. Every message goes unanswered. Every call goes to voicemail. I stopped leaving messages after the 10th one because I realized I was just repeating myself, just saying the same desperate apologies over and over. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Please talk to me. Please give me another chance. Please don't throw away 6 years of marriage over one mistake, but silence is his only response. I've driven past our house. My house, I still think of it as my house, even though I know it's not anymore. 3 times in the past 2 weeks. Always at night, always hoping to catch a glimpse of him through the windows, hoping to see some sign that he's struggling too, that he misses me, that this is as hard for him as it is for me. But the curtains are always drawn, and his car is never in the driveway when I drive by. Maybe he's staying somewhere else. Maybe he can't bear to be in that house with all our memories. Or maybe he just parks in the garage now so I can't see if he's home. I reached out to mutual friends, hoping one of them might mediate or at least tell me how he's doing. Sarah first, because she was my closest friend before this happened. I called her the day after everything fell apart, sobbing so hard I could barely get the words out. She listened. She let me tell the whole story. And then there was this long pause before she spoke. "I don't know what to say," she finally said, her voice careful and measured. "That's really bad. What you said, I mean. That's really, really bad." "I know," I sobbed. "I know it was bad, but I didn't mean it. I was just angry and—" "I think you should give him space," she interrupted gently. "I think you should let him process this on his own." And then she made an excuse about needing to go and hung up. She hasn't returned my calls since. I tried Marcus next, my husband's best friend since college. Surely Marcus would understand. Surely he'd seen enough of our relationship to know that this wasn't who I really was. He answered on the third ring. "Hey," I said, trying to sound calm and rational instead of desperate. "I know you've probably talked to him. I just wanted to explain my side of—" "I don't think we should talk," Marcus said flatly. "I don't think that's appropriate right now." "Please," I begged, "just hear me out, just let me—" "I heard the recording," he said, and my blood ran cold. He played it for me. And honestly, I don't know what you expect me to say. That was beyond messed up. "It was one moment," I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. "One horrible moment that I immediately regretted. Doesn't 6 years of marriage count for anything?" "I don't know," Marcus said quietly. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you said what you said." Then he hung up. One by one, I reached out to everyone we knew. And one by one, they all said versions of the same thing. They were sorry. They hoped I was okay. But they couldn't get involved. They needed to give him space. They couldn't take sides. Except they had taken sides. They'd all taken his side. Because of course they had. Because I'd said the unforgivable thing, and now I was the villain of the story. I'm completely alone. I spend my days going to work and pretending everything is fine, smiling at colleagues who don't know my life is falling apart, attending meetings and responding to emails and acting like a functional human being. And then I come back to this depressing motel room and fall apart all over again. I keep replaying that night in my head, over and over, like a loop I can't escape. I keep analyzing every moment, every word, every choice, trying to figure out where exactly it all went wrong. Was it when I said those words? Obviously. But also, was it earlier? Was it when I decided to escalate the argument instead of walking away? Was it months ago when I stopped trying to understand his stress and just focused on my own needs? Was it years ago when we first started drifting apart and neither of us did anything to stop it? The truth is, I don't know. I don't know when we became these people who could hurt each other so deeply. I don't know when love turned into resentment and connection turned into loneliness. I think about our early years together. The way he used to look at me, like I was the only person in the room. The way we'd stay up until 3 a.m, talking about everything and nothing. The way he'd leave little notes for me to find. Thinking of you. You're beautiful. I'm lucky. When did those notes stop? When did those conversations stop? When did that look in his eyes fade? I want to blame him. Part of me still does blame him. If he'd been more present, more attentive, more willing to work on our intimacy issues, maybe I wouldn't have felt so desperate. Maybe I wouldn't have reached for such a cruel weapon. But I know that's not fair. I know I'm responsible for my own words, my own choices, my own cruelty. I could have walked away from that argument. I could have said, I need some space, and gone for a walk to cool down. I could have suggested couples therapy before things got this bad. I could have done 1,000 different things instead of reaching for the one sentence designed to destroy him. But I didn't. I chose cruelty. I chose to hurt him in the deepest way I could think of. And now I'm living with the consequences of that choice. I've started seeing a therapist. Her name is Dr. Chen, and she has kind eyes and a gentle voice and an office that smells like lavender. I can't really afford her, but I can't afford not to see her either. I need someone to talk to, someone who won't judge me, someone who might help me understand why I did what I did. "Why do you think you said it?" she asked in our second session. I gave her the easy answer first, because I was angry, because he was ignoring me, because I wanted to hurt him the way he'd been hurting me. "And did it work?" she asked. "Did hurting him make you feel better?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I admitted finally. "It made me feel worse, even before he played the recording for his father. Even in the moment right after I said it, I felt worse. I felt like I'd broken something that couldn't be fixed." "Then why did you say it 3 times?" she asked gently. That question haunted me for days afterward. Why had I repeated it? Why had I doubled down instead of apologizing immediately? Because part of me wanted to win. Part of me was so tired of losing arguments, of feeling small, of feeling invisible, that I wanted to land a blow so devastating he couldn't ignore it. And I succeeded. I definitely succeeded in making him see me, in making him feel something. I just didn't expect the thing he'd feel would be contempt. Some people might think he overreacted, that recording me without permission was a violation, that playing that recording for his father was cruel and manipulative. And maybe they're right, but some part of me understands why he did it. He needed me to see myself clearly, to see what I'd become when I was angry, to understand that words have consequences and that some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. He needed to show me exactly who I was in that moment, and now I have to live with that person, that woman who said such a vile thing, that woman who prioritized winning an argument over protecting her marriage, that woman who thought hurting him would somehow make her feel less hurt. I sit here in this depressing motel room, staring at my phone, replaying the recording he sent me one last time before he blocked my number. My own voice sounds like a stranger's, cruel, calculated, exactly as heartless as he said. "Maybe your dad could satisfy me better than you do." I wanted his attention. I wanted him to care. I wanted him to fight for me, for us, for our marriage. Instead, I got humiliation. I got exile. I got exactly what I deserved. And now I have no home, no marriage, no dignity, no friends, no family. Just this motel room, this suitcase, and the knowledge that I destroyed the best thing in my life because I couldn't control my anger for 5 seconds. I thought I was winning the argument that night. Turns out I was losing everything. People ask me now what I've learned. Friends from work who don't know the whole story. The motel manager who sees me crying in my car sometimes. The therapist I can't really afford but am seeing anyway because I don't know what else to do. What have I learned? I've learned that marriage is fragile. That trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. That words can wound deeper than any physical blow. That anger can make you cruel in ways you never imagined possible. I've learned that you can't take back something once it's said. That apologies don't erase damage. That "I didn't mean it" doesn't undo the hurt you caused. I've learned that sometimes the consequences of our actions are swift and absolute. That sometimes there are no second chances. That sometimes you destroy something so completely that no amount of regret can put it back together. But mostly, I've learned this. When you're in a relationship with someone, you're holding their heart in your hands. Their dignity, their self-worth, their trust. And you can choose, in every moment, to protect those precious things or to use them as weapons. I chose wrong. I weaponized the one thing that would hurt him most. And I didn't just do it once in a moment of thoughtless anger. I did it 3 times, each repetition more deliberate than the last. And he showed me exactly what that looked like, what I sounded like, what I'd become. Some people might say he's the villain of this story, that he violated my privacy by recording me, that he was cruel for playing it in front of his father, that he overreacted by kicking me out immediately without giving me a chance to make amends. But I can't shake this feeling that he was just holding up a mirror, forcing me to see myself clearly for the first time in a long time. And what I saw was ugly. So here I am, alone in a motel room that smells like old carpet and broken dreams, scrolling through photos of a life I don't have anymore, a marriage I destroyed, a man I loved and hurt so badly that he couldn't even look at me anymore. I wanted to win the argument. I wanted to make him feel what I was feeling. I wanted to shake him out of his complacency and force him to see me, really see me. Mission accomplished. He saw me. His father saw me. I saw myself. And none of us liked what we saw. Now I'm left with nothing but regret, a suitcase full of clothes, and the knowledge that I have no one to blame but myself. If you're reading this and you're in a relationship, please learn from my mistake. Don't say things you can't take back. Don't weaponize the people your partner loves. Don't let anger turn you into someone you don't recognize, because once you cross that line, there's no going back. And you might end up exactly where I am, alone, ashamed, and wishing desperately that you could rewind time and make different choices. But you can't. All you can do is sit with the consequences and hope that someday, somehow, you'll find a way to forgive yourself. I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm trying. That's all I can do now. Just try.